to Real Talk on Racism. I'm Renee Ellison. I'm here today with Younes Haddouche, who is the Executive Director of Wafa House. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, Younes, and just let us know a little bit about yourself and what Wafa House and how it serves the community.
Hello everyone, my name is Younes Haddouche. I am the Executive Director at Wafa House. Wafa House has been around for over 17 years, started by two sisters in the community sisters as in Muslim sisters, not necessarily sisters, if you will, who saw a real gap, a need to help victims of domestic violence, to help clients with social services and case management. And they reached out to one of the biggest Islamic centers in North Jersey, who partnered with them and aided them in putting together this magnificent organization.
Yeah.
I started with them just this year. I've been in the nonprofit space for over 15 years now, come to think of it. I absolutely enjoy nonprofit work. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to work with Wafa House and to work with the different organizations throughout New Jersey. And here we are. I mean, it's been quite an adventure.
Yeah, and so much to unpack there. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
On being the first male executive director of Wafa House. What an accomplishment. And share with the audience the significance of that, would you, Younes?
Well, I mean, for 17 years, the organization was run by sisters in the community, which is outstanding, outstanding work. The challenge has become when interacting with community leaders, when interacting with imams or sheikhs or different organizations, what you'll find is that it's difficult to give them the time of day. They have a hard time with that. And not necessarily because they don't respect the work or disrespect, the sisters doing the work, but also because it's hard. It's hard to approach, for a man and a woman to have a conversation about domestic violence, where one is advocating for a woman or advocating for a man, and trying to just break those barriers.
Sure.
There are also, layers of religious understanding that go into that, because a lot of the work that we do stems on privacy. Mm-hmm. It stems on clarifying misconceptions. Mm-hmm. And when someone is just set in their ways and they don't necessarily want to keep an open mind as to what's going on in the community, or it's so taboo that they don't want to discuss it, these are some of the roadblocks that we've been hitting. Being a male in this space, I'm able to be confrontational, if you will, and have a very direct conversation and say, this is something that we need to discuss. This is something that needs to be brought to the forefront. I'd like to say that Wafa House has pioneered this effort in the Muslim space for many reasons, because now there are other organizations that are led by women that are getting the time of day.
That's wonderful.
And I would love to say that Wafa House has been the pioneer in that.
That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about some of the services that Wafa House provides to the community, how you interact with the community, what the community can expect of Wafa House.
That's a great question. Wafa House is a domestic violence agency. We're completely non-for-profit, and our programs are divided into three. We have a legal clinic, so we provide legal services. Mm-hmm. We have counseling. All of our counselors are bilingual. They speak Arabic and English.
Wonderful.
And we also have case management services for social services and other terms of aid, whether it's filling out an application or vocational training or financial literacy programs. Mm-hmm. And all of our staff that is dealing in direct services, which is client-facing, are bilingual. So they speak both English and Arabic.
So let's start with the legal services. Tell us a little bit more about what someone who is seeking services from Wafa House can expect to find.
Sure. So our legal clinic provides aid with divorce cases, restraining orders, TROs, FROs, temporary restraining orders, familiar restraining orders.
Thank you.
Of course. They also provide some immigration help as well. Mm-hmm. So the legal clinic provides consults to clients based on a referral basis, or they can, call in or send an email in, and the consults are provided based on the need that is being asked of them. Now, if we aren't able to provide those needs, we're also considered a referral agency, which means we will look for pro bono attorneys to help these clients. It's not like a one and done type of a call. So if a client were to call in today and it's not something that we would be able to help them in, we would look for attorneys in the community that are or have the culturally sensitive or culturally specific piece in order to be able to understand the cultural aspects or the religious aspects or the societal influences that come with these cases.
How difficult is that to find? I'm assuming that's not something that you can just go to a specific directory and find people with this expertise.
Correct.
Yeah, how do you find those folks?
So that's one thing that Wafa House has put together.
Okay.
Is they've created that directory.
Wonderful.
Yes. So over the past 17 or 15 years or so, they have partnered with different organizations. A big one that we partner with is NJMLA, which is the New Jersey Muslim Lawyers Association. And we actually received an award from them this year for Public Advocate of the Year for providing legal services. And we'll reach out to an organization such as that one. And because, every attorney has to have some pro bono hours that they log in any given year,
Sure.
as per the state requirements. So I don't want to say that we exploit that, but we like to work with these attorneys to provide these types of services because some cases are very intricate,
Sure.
So
Can you just, without saying names, obviously,
Sure.
for the benefit of confidentiality, can you share with me maybe a case that might be unusual or sort of different and intricate that Wafa House has been able to support?
So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
We had a male victim of domestic violence. This victim did not have immigration status. This victim was abused by his wife and her family and ran away from home because he had nowhere to go. And this victim was also ill in other ways, not mentally, if you will. And he came to Wafa House because he was told in the community there's an organization that helps people. And the misconception is we only help women and children, but we also help males as well,
Sure.
And young adults, if you will. And we were able to provide this victim with legal consult. And the case was very intricate in the sense that it was beyond the capacity of our organization. So we paired them with a pro bono attorney, and we were able to cover part of the retainer for the attorney, and the attorney represents them directly now in a criminal restraining order, as well as providing benefits and social services. Because not having immigration status, you still have rights
Sure.
as a human being, here in the state of New Jersey and the United States as a whole. And that's a huge misconception people have, is you don't realize that things can be done. Help is there.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's just being able to find the help, to be able to. So, for someone like this person who had that challenge, is it a community kind of whisper down the lane that Wafa House exists? How was he able to find you?
That's a great question. In the beginning, I'd like to say that Wafa House was kind of like a hush-hush type of organization.
Yeah.
We were out there. Part of our services, we provide outreach and workshops. So we'll go to the different Islamic centers and promote our services. In doing that, we create exposure. The other type of exposure that we have is a referral basis. Is once you help 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 clients, the word of mouth is a very, very powerful tool, Renee. I mean, especially in this space, it's like Morse code. You're sending out these little messages. Oh, there's this organization that'll help. This is the name of the organization.
Wonderful.
I'll give you an example of another case where we had a sister come to us that said that her husband put a restraining order against her because he didn't want her getting her citizenship. So she went to do the interview anyway. When she came home, the kids were gone. The police came and served her with a restraining order. A few days later, the husband called her and said, hey, if you want to see the kids, come, I'm in this parking lot. Called the police because she was in violation of her restraining order. And they arrested her. And you take a case that's so
complicated,
and it's very deep with emotion and just frustration for some things that are just unnecessary, you know, because of a power dynamic or gender roles, if you will.
Yeah.
And having the misconception between what a religious understanding is or cultural understanding, there's this overlap that certain people in the community just think that they can control everything.
Yeah.
But what Wafa House has been able to do over the past 17 years is break that.
Yeah.
Is provide a voice to those who didn't even know that they were able to speak, let alone have a voice.
That's wonderful. That's just incredible. And I think that there's so many, and forgive me,
Please,
if this doesn't come out exactly the right way, but there's so many stereotypes, right?
Absolutely.
So, just for example, you walk in today and you share with me about the story of your newborn daughter, and there's this joy and buoyance that comes across your face, and it's obvious that you are a loving father and a loving husband.
I appreciate that.
And the complete antithesis of those stereotypes that exist within the community. And I wonder sometimes, Younes, just how frustrating that must be for you.
There has to be a level of understanding in order to break the taboo or break those barriers or break those stereotypes.
Yeah.
There's this huge misconception that a woman has to walk behind a man in Islam. It has nothing to do with religious at all. But what it is that it's a respect factor. It has nothing to do with who is above who or who is below who. It's a respect factor. 50 years ago, in this country, women were covered who weren't Muslim. 60 years ago, in this country, premarital relations were not allowed and were taboo. As Americans, as those who follow a religion, those who don't, it was taboo. It just didn't happen. And it was something like, you know, so we're quick to forget that.
Yeah.
We're quick to place stereotypes on the way that we understand these stereotypes. But as a Muslim, it is my responsibility to provide clarification and understanding as to what this all means. Right? Is to provide an idea and an understanding of what does it mean to have a daughter, a sister, a wife, an aunt, a grandmother. What does that mean to me as a person, to me as a member of society, to me as a member of my community, and to me as a Muslim?
So you're consistently in your role as executive director teaching and trying to help people to unlearn those stereotypes and those misconceptions
Absolutely.
that they have about the Muslim community. What is that responsibility like for you?
It's constantly defining and redefining. Even before I took this job, it was a constant battle. No question. I mean, I lived through September 11. I was young.
Yeah.
But what you begin to see is that people only want to see and hear what they want to see and hear.
Yeah.
Even in our own community. We have to be real.
Yeah.
Racism, sexism, these concepts are very, very real. I'm Muslim, I'm Algerian. I could be interacting with a Muslim Egyptian, Jordanian, Sudanian, Syrian, Lebanese, Saudi, Emirati. It doesn't matter. But if they see something that they don't like about me, they will associate it with my race. Because they can't say, this is the type of Muslim that we have. No, they'll say, Algerians do this.
So it's that
It's
othering.
It's layers.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. The societal, communal, and religious layering. The human factor is very gray. Because we know that religion says, a hadith, a narration by the Prophet says, the smile in the face of your brother is a charity. That's religion. I mean, religion. But if an Algerian smiles at a Saudi in a specific way, it can be misunderstood.
Interesting.
So race is layered above or below religion. So what we have to do, my responsibility that I've always felt, is we are Muslims, humans, we are people that believe in something, and those that don't believe in anything, well, they are human, so they still deserve your respect. Unless they do something to not deserve your respect, that's not what we're discussing here.
Exactly.
If I'm walking in the street and somebody smiles at me, I'm going to smile back.
Right.
Because judge me as a Muslim, but don't judge my religion, right? Judge me as a person, but don't judge my race. As humans, we are taught and guided to judge situations. We never judge circumstances. I don't look at the last 10 things you did that brought you here today. I look at you right now. I don't think about what you're going through in your life. I think how you treated me in that moment.
Now, I want to bring this back to
Please.
Wafa House for a moment, because I'm thinking about the counseling services that you provide, right? And I can imagine, because you probably have so many survivors in the Muslim community who are coming for these counseling services, to be able to have that intersectionality between being a survivor and being in the Muslim community, and receiving services that really help you to kind of reflect back on who you are and what's important to you. What kind of value do you think those counseling services are bringing to survivors as members of the Muslim community?
I think they're absolutely integral and critical.
Okay.
You have someone who, culturally speaking, knows that the husband is the breadwinner, that he is to provide, and they are to be home with the children, for lack of a better term. So when you are speaking to these survivors, you are literally peeling back the layers. As counselors, they want the clients, the survivors, to trust them. But that takes time. And how does that translate into the community? Well, you don't want anybody knowing that you're getting help. You always want to appear to be strong and resilient and independent. But then when you're bruised and battered, again, excuse my plain language, people look at you differently. So a lot of the counseling services we provide is to empower these survivors, to provide them with help so that they can get back on their feet, they can be sustainable, they can be independent, they can lead as an example for their kids. Divorce becomes such a taboo. When somebody says, I'm divorced, it's like this huge thing, especially in our community. Especially, the divorce rates are 50%. I mean, these numbers are astronomical.
Astronomical, yeah.
So how do you take a client and a survivor rather, and you show them that there are options for them out there, that there are things that they can do, that there are ways for them to go back into the community empowered, that they can help somebody else. When you remove that factor, then it makes a difference.
That sounds great.
Then you realize the impact you're making.
It sounds like the impact that you're making at Wafa House is that people, women, men, folks who are coming to be a part of the Wafa House experience, what you're doing is you're helping survivors to be empowered, to feel stronger, to feel like they can not only survive and thrive as a result of the services that you provide in their own personal commitment to survival and thriving, but that they can go back into the society and that they can help others who might be struggling through the same things, which I think that's the ideal scenario to establish.
It's the bare minimum.
Mm.
It's the bare minimum.
Yeah. What's the maximum?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
The maximum is them telling their stories publicly.
Without shame.
Without any shame.
Mm.
Without them questioning their own decisions. Because you have someone who has to provide for their kids, has to make sure they have the right upbringing, male or female.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds more female-based, and it is, but being single and a survivor, you question your whole existence. Your whole self-esteem is, it is non-existent, and you have to rebuild that. And when you do, and you've gotten over it, you don't necessarily want to think about that again. You're in a better place now. So do you want to constantly have to revisit it? Or be in society as, oh, that's the one who was beat, or that's the one who left her husband because of this, or now she's doing all this on her own. How is she surviving? How is she providing?
So there's a stigma.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, there's a stigma to women being single in the Muslim community without that male covering, I guess you would say, or that male protection or relationship. How would you say that?
It comes to a fine line between religious understanding and cultural definition.
Okay.
The woman in Islam should always be protected. You see, at the time of the Prophet, it was taboo for somebody not to get remarried. As soon as a woman is divorced, she has to wait a period of time. After that, she would be remarried. Mm. It wasn't a question of how many kids she had or how long. No. Because the women are the gems of our society. They are the diamonds of our society. Mm-hmm. What a woman can do, a man can't dream of doing. Again, excuse me for speaking very plainly, but that's the reality. We have to respect that. And it becomes such a fine line because you have these movements and feminists and there's a respect for everybody in the space. The goal is to allow society to accept and redefine people who are survivors.
You know, you bring up such a great point, Younes, the feminist perspective toward Muslim women. Mm-hmm. And I remember being confused about what it means to be a Muslim woman, to cover, to walk behind, and those things. I remember being confused about that until a few of my Muslim women friends explained to me. So sometimes I think it's just a matter of when it comes to feminism, being a woman and making your own choice. Mm-hmm. Right? Not necessarily deciding that the choices that you make have to fall in line in a certain way. And I have come to understand that in the Muslim community, those things by women who are Muslim, many of them are perceived as being protected, are perceived as being held in high esteem. So for that reason, I'm humbled by it. I'm humbled by those traditions, those customs that for the longest time I didn't really understand. So in the time that we have left, Younes, what is it that you'd like to share about maybe events? I know we mentioned earlier that
yes.
There's a benefit or a fundraiser that's coming up in April, your gala. So share with us what that's all about.
We have our annual gala. It's usually around the time of Ramadan. Okay. And what it is we break fast together.
Nice.
And the concept of breaking bread with someone has always been held in such high esteem. And the fact that it's our annual fundraiser, if you will, we typically do very well, God willing, and it's to continue to provide the services that we provide.
Yeah.
We didn't receive legal funding this year, for example, to keep our legal clinic open. So we're going to continue to fundraise to keep our legal clinic open, to have an on-staff attorney, to continue having our paralegal services and a legal advocate. We do receive grants that help with a lot of it, but there's still a gap.
So important, the work that you are doing at Wafa House. I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to drive all the way to Princeton, New Jersey. And if you could just quickly let us know where Wafa House is located.
Yes.
And the phone number, if you can recall that off of the top of your head.
Sure. So Wafa House is located in Passaic County, New Jersey. We have a few satellite offices, and we are in search of our new home, which we're very, very excited about. Our phone number here is 1-800-930-9232. That's 1-800-930-WAFA. So,
Wonderful.
Renee, I really thank you for your time.
Oh, it's
and
my pleasure.
This was a pleasure.
And
Absolutely.
congratulations on the beautiful
Thank you.
baby.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us here on Real Talk on Racism. I'm so glad that we had this time together, and we'll see you next time.